You just made the worst mistake of your life.
Those were the last words Kim Minjay heard before the boutique doors exploded open and Seoul's most dangerous man walked in to find his wife bleeding on the floor. But here's the thing about revenge. The best kind isn't fast. It's slow, deliberate, devastating. And the woman lying in that broken glass? She was about to teach her ex-boyfriend that the homeless pregnant girl he threw away 5 years ago had married a man who could end his entire existence with a single phone call. This is that story. Welcome to Afro-Soul Stories TV Besties. This is our 16th video, and if you're new here, kindly show your encouragement by hitting the like and subscribe button. It would mean a lot to me. Thank you to those who already subscribed before now. You inspired me to keep creating more videos like this. Now let's get back to the story. The sound of breaking glass echoed through the Cheongdam-dong boutique like a gunshot. Elena Kim hit the marble floor hard, her cream Dior dress tearing as shards scattered around her like diamonds. Blood trickled from her palm, pooling on the white marble. The pain was sharp, immediate, but nothing compared to the psychological whiplash of hearing that voice again. Kim Minjay stood over her, designer Tom Ford suit immaculate, a smile playing on his lips. That same smile, the one he'd worn when he'd told her she wasn't worth keeping, when he'd changed the locks, when he'd left her 4 months pregnant with nowhere to go. "Still playing dress up with money you stole?" he sneered, his new fiancée giggling beside him as she filmed on her phone. "Or did you finally find someone desperate enough to pay for you?" Eleanor's 3 security guards moved forward, hands going to their concealed weapons. But Eleanor raised one finger, a small gesture, one that said, "Not yet. I've got this." What Minjay didn't know was that the woman bleeding on that floor had spent the last 2 years married to Kim Jae-sung. The Kim Jae-sung, the man who controlled half of Seoul's underground economy, the man politicians whispered about in fear, the man whose name made boardrooms go silent and enemies disappear. And he was already on his way. But let me back up, because you need to understand how we got here. How a broken woman on a bridge became the one person in Seoul you should never, ever touch. 5 years earlier, Eleanor Choi had been standing on the Mapo Bridge for 20 minutes, staring at the black water below, when a stranger's voice cut through her thoughts. "If you're going to jump, at least take off your shoes first." She turned, startled. A man stood a few feet away, tall, expensive suit, blood on his knuckles like he'd just come from a fight. "Excuse me?" Elena's voice was hollow. "Your shoes?" He nodded at her worn sneakers, the only ones she owned. "They'll weigh you down. Make drowning faster." He paused, lighting a cigarette with hands that didn't shake despite the blood. "Or slower, depending on your perspective." They stared at each other, 2 strangers at the end of their ropes. "I'm not going to jump," Eleanor finally said, though she wasn't sure she meant it. "Good." He took a drag, eyes never leaving hers. "Me neither." Something passed between them in that moment, some wordless understanding that only people who've stared into the abyss can share. "Why are you here?" Elena asked. "Bad night at work." He said it like a joke, but his eyes were dead serious. "You? Bad life." Elena laughed, but it came out bitter. "My boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, kicked me out 3 weeks ago. I was 4 months pregnant, lost the baby 2 days ago in a shelter bathroom." Her voice cracked. "I have 3 jobs and I still can't afford to eat every day. So yeah, bad life." The man's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Rage, maybe. Or recognition. "Your ex-boyfriend," he said carefully. "What's his name? Why?" "So I know who to kill if I ever meet him." He said it so casually, like offering to pick up coffee. "Kim Minjay," Eleanor whispered. "But it doesn't matter now. He's engaged to some assemblyman's daughter. Probably doesn't even remember my name." The man flicked his cigarette into the river. "He'll remember it. I'll make sure of that." He extended his hand. Kim Jae-sung. Eleanor took it. His grip was firm, warm, alive. Eleanor Choi. Eleanor Choi, he repeated like he was memorizing it. I own a security company. We need someone to clean the offices. Overnight shift, pays triple minimum wage. No questions asked. Eleanor should have questioned it. Should have wondered what kind of security company operated with blood on its owner's knuckles. But she was drowning, and he was offering a lifeline. Okay, she said. When do I start? Tomorrow night, 9 p.m. I'll text you the address. He started to walk away, then paused. Eleanor, the shoes thing? I was serious. If you ever come back here with that intention, take them off first. It's faster. Are you speaking from experience? He smiled. It was the saddest smile she'd ever seen. I've thought about it enough to know the logistics. And then he was gone, leaving Elena alone on that bridge with a job offer and the first spark of hope she'd felt in months. She didn't jump that night, neither did he, and somehow, impossibly, that was the beginning of everything. For the first 6 months, Elena and Jae-sung barely spoke. She cleaned his offices, 20 floors of steel and glass in Gangnam that screamed money and danger. He worked late, dealing with clients she tried not to think too hard about. Sometimes she'd hear raised voices through his office door. Sometimes men in suits would leave with split lips and haunted eyes. She didn't ask questions. He paid her exactly what he'd promised, always in cash, always more than they'd agreed on. The extra is a bonus, he'd say when she tried to return it. For what? For showing up. It became a routine. She'd arrive at 9 p.m. He'd nod at her from his office. She'd clean. He'd work. Sometimes they'd be the only 2 people in the entire building until 4 a.m. One night, everything changed. Eleanor was emptying trash cans on the 18th floor when she heard a crash from the executive bathroom. Then a muffled curse. She found Jae-sung sitting on the floor, back against the wall, blood soaking through his white shirt. A knife wound across his ribs, not deep enough to be fatal, but deep enough to need medical attention. I've got this, he said, trying to thread a needle with shaking hands. You really don't. Eleanor grabbed the first aid kit. Let me. You don't have to. I worked at a veterinary clinic before. Before Minjay. Before everything fell apart. It's not that different. Sit still. She cleaned the wound, her hands steady despite the blood, stitched him up with practiced efficiency. The whole time, Jae-sung watched her with an expression she couldn't quite read. When she finished, he caught her wrist, gently. Why did you help me? Because you gave me a job when I had nothing, because you're bleeding, because... Eleanor met his eyes. Because you didn't let me jump. Something shifted in that moment, some invisible wall crumbling. Thank you, Jae-sung said softly. You're welcome. After that, they started talking. Small things at first. Favourite foods, childhood memories, books they'd read. Then bigger things. He told her about his mother, about building his empire from nothing, about the violence he'd committed to survive. She told him about Minjay, about the baby, about standing on that bridge and wanting the water to swallow her whole. What was her name? Jae-sung asked one night, 3 months into their friendship. Your baby. Eleanor's throat tightened. No one had asked her that before. Ji-woo. It means wisdom. Beautiful name. I never even got to meet her, just lost her in a shelter bathroom while everyone else slept. Tears slid down her cheeks. I couldn't even afford to bury her properly. Jae-sung pulled her into his arms without a word, just held her while she cried, his hand running through her hair, his presence solid and safe. I'm sorry, Elena gasped out. I'm getting your shirt wet. I don't care about the shirt. They stayed like that for an hour. Elena crying out years of grief. Jae-sung holding her like she was precious. When she finally quieted, he said, I'll take you to her. What? Your daughter. Where is she buried? A public gravesite in Incheon. I could only afford the cheapest option. Then we'll go, and we'll make it beautiful. Flowers, a proper headstone, whatever you want. He cupped her face, thumbs brushing away her tears. She deserves to be remembered, and you deserve to say goodbye properly. Eleanor broke down again, but this time it felt like healing. The next weekend, Jae-sung drove her to Incheon. They spent the day at Ji-woo's grave, cleaning, planting flowers, installing a beautiful granite headstone with her name and the words, "Forever loved." "Thank you," Elena whispered as the sun set. "You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do. You didn't have to do this." "Elena," Jae-sung turned to face her. "There's very little I wouldn't do for you." Her breath caught. "Jae-sung, I'm not asking for anything. I need you to know that." His hand found hers. "You matter to me. More than I thought anyone could matter again." Eleanor's heart hammered. "You matter to me too." They stood there, hands clasped, in a cemetery at sunset, and Elena realized she was falling for him. This dangerous man with gentle hands, this underground king who'd given her back her dignity. 3 months later, after late-night conversations and stolen glances and a connection neither could deny, Jae-sung asked her to dinner. A real dinner, not takeout in his office. "Is this a date?" Eleanor asked, nervous. Their relationship evolved naturally after that. Dates became sleepovers, became Eleanor moving into his penthouse. Jae-sung was patient, gentle, letting her set the pace. He never pushed, never demanded, just loved her with an intensity that took her breath away. 6 months into dating, Elena woke up at 3 a.m. to find Jae-sung standing at their bedroom window, staring out at Seoul. "Can't sleep?" she asked. "Just thinking." "About?" He turned, and the look on his face made her heart skip. "About how I want to wake up next to you for the rest of my life." Eleanor sat up. "Jae-sung, marry me." The words hung in the air between them. "We've only been dating 6 months," Eleanor said, but her heart was racing. "I don't care. I knew 3 months ago. I knew standing in that cemetery. I knew—" His voice cracked. "Eleanor, I love you. I'm completely, devastatingly in love with you, and I don't want to waste another second not being your husband." Tears streamed down her face. "Ask me properly." Jae-sung dropped to one knee right there, pulling out a ring box from seemingly nowhere. "Elena Choi, will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life protecting you, loving you, building a future with you?" "Yes." The word burst out of her. "Yes, yes. 1,000 times. Yes." He slid the ring on her finger, platinum with a diamond that caught the city lights. And then he was kissing her, both of them crying and laughing and holding each other like they'd never let go. They got married 2 weeks later. Just them, a judge, and Park Sang-woo as witness. When the judge pronounced them married, when Jae-sung kissed her like she was air and he was drowning, Eleanor felt something she hadn't felt in years. Safe, loved, home. For 2 years, they built a life together. Jae-sung continued running his empire. Eleanor started planning her foundation. They were happy, healing, in love. Until that day in the boutique, until the past came crashing back. "Still playing dress-up with money you stole?" Minjay's voice dripped with contempt as Elena pushed herself up from the broken glass. Her palm was bleeding, her dress was ruined, but her eyes were ice. "Let go of me," she said, voice deadly calm. "Or what?" Minjay grabbed her wrist harder, his fiancé filming everything. "You'll call your sugar daddy. Tell him the poor girl needs saving again." Eleanor twisted her wrist, exactly like Jae-sung's security chief had taught her, breaking his grip. "You have 3 seconds to leave this store." Minjay's face flushed red. "You think you're someone now? You're nothing. You were nothing then. You're nothing now. You'll always be the pathetic woman I threw." He shoved her. Hard. Eleanor's body crashed into the glass display case. The world exploded in sound, shattering glass, screaming shoppers, her own cry of pain. She hit the floor surrounded by broken crystal and twisted metal and blood. So much blood. The diamond bracelet Jae-sung had given her, the one that said, "Forever yours" engraved on the inside, shattered, stones scattering across the marble like tears. Through the ringing in her ears, Elena heard her security team shouting, heard Minjay's fiancé shrieking, heard the store manager on the phone, voice panicked. And then she heard something else, tires screeching outside, car doors slamming, heavy footsteps that made the very air change. The boutique doors opened. Kim Jae-sung walked in like the angel of death. Want to know what happens next? Of course you do. But first, smash that like button if you're hooked. Drop a comment telling me what you think Jae-sung should do to Minjay. And subscribe because this story is about to get intense. Now let's continue. He wore a simple black suit, nothing flashy. But every single person in that room recognized power when they saw it. Real power. The kind that didn't need to announce itself. 3 black Genesis GV80s were parked outside, doors open. 8 men in dark suits fanned out around the boutique's perimeter. The store security guards immediately stepped aside, heads bowed. The manager actually bowed at the waist. Someone whispered, "Kim Sajang-nim, President Kim." But Jae-sung didn't look at any of them. His eyes locked on Elena on the floor, blood on her dress surrounded by broken glass. His face remained perfectly calm, which was somehow more terrifying than rage would have been. He walked to her, ignored everyone else, knelt beside her in his expensive suit, not caring about the blood or glass. "Darling," his voice was so soft, "are you okay?" Elena couldn't speak, could barely breathe. Jae-sung's hand cupped her face, thumb brushing away a tear she hadn't realized she'd shed. "I'm here now," he murmured. "You're safe." Only then did he look up. His eyes found Minjay, and Minjay realized he'd made a fatal mistake. You know that feeling when you suddenly understand you're in danger? Not theoretical danger. Real, immediate, life-ending danger. That's what Minjay's face showed as Jae-sung stood up. "Who touched my wife?" Jae-sung asked quietly. The silence was deafening. Minjay tried to speak. I didn't know she was... we used to... She was just what?" Jae-sung took one step forward, just one. Finish that sentence. Minjay's mouth opened, closed. His fiancée had stopped filming, face pale. One of Jae-sung's men moved forward. "Sajang-nim, this man is Kim Minjay, investment banker at Daehan Securities. Lives in Samsung-dong. Father owns a construction company. Recent engagement to Yoon Ji-woo, daughter of Assemblyman Yoon Chang-min." Jae-sung absorbed this information without changing expression. "Kim Minjay." He repeated the name like he was memorizing it. "You put your hands on my wife." "It was an accident," Minjay tried. "You're still talking." Jae-sung's voice could have cut glass. "That's interesting." 2 of his men moved to flank Minjay. The woman beside him, Ji-woo, stumbled backward, finally understanding this wasn't a drama she could post online. This was real. Police sirens wailed outside. Red and blue lights flashed through the boutique windows. But no one moved to let them in. The officers would wait. Everyone waited for Kim Jae-sung. "Elena," Jae-sung didn't take his eyes off Minjay. "Tell me what you want me to do with him." And here's where the story could have ended. One word from Elena, and Minjay would have disappeared. Jae-sung had the power, the connections, the cold-blooded pragmatism to make anyone vanish. No evidence, no witnesses, just gone. But Elena didn't say that word. She stood slowly, Jae-sung's security chief helping her up. Blood dripped from her palm. And when she spoke, her voice was clear. "I want him to live." Jae-sung's eyebrow raised slightly. "I want him to live," Elena repeated, "and lose everything, the way I lost everything. I want him to know what it feels like to have the life he built crumble around him, to be powerless, to be nothing." A ghost of a smile touched Jae-sung's lips. "As you wish," he turned to his second-in-command. "Park Sang-woo." Park Sang-woo stepped forward, mid-30s, sharp eyes, the kind of man who could find anything on anyone. "Find everything," Jae-sung said calmly. "Every dirty secret, every unpaid debt, every crime. Tear this man's life to pieces." "Yes, Sajang-nim." Jae-sung looked back at Minjay. You have 24 hours before your world ends. I suggest you use them to get your affairs in order. You can't do this, Minjay's voice cracked. My father, my firm. Your father is Lee Byung-chul of Daehan Construction. Annual revenue of 50 billion won. 3 government contracts currently under review. Jae-sung recited this casually. Your firm manages 200 billion won in client assets. Your assemblyman future father-in-law is up for re-election next year. He paused. How much of that do you think survives what I'm about to do? Minjay's face went white. Jae-sung turned back to Eleanor, all the coldness melting from his expression. Let's go home. He lifted her into his arms like she weighed nothing. Eleanor buried her face in his neck, breathing in his familiar scent, sandalwood, and safety. As they walked out, Jae-sung paused beside Minjay. If you ever speak her name again, he said conversationally, I'll forget I promised not to kill you. The black SUVs drove away. Police finally entered the boutique. And Kim Minjay stood there, surrounded by broken glass and ruined merchandise, understanding that his life as he knew it was over. The penthouse was silent when they arrived. Jae-sung carried Eleanor through the door, past his security team straight to their bedroom. He set her down on the bed like she was made of glass. I'm calling Dr. Ahn, he said, already pulling out his phone. I'm okay. You're bleeding. Eleanor caught his hand. Jae-sung, I'm okay. I just need... She didn't finish. Didn't know how to finish. What did she need? To forget? To scream? To cry until she couldn't cry anymore? The panic attack hit then, delayed, but vicious. Her chest constricted, her vision blurred. She couldn't breathe, couldn't... Hey, look at me. Jae-sung was in front of her, hands on her face. Breathe with me. In, out, in, out. He breathed with her, slow, steady, until her lungs remembered how to work. He's gone, Jae-sung murmured. He can't hurt you anymore. He already did. Eleanor's voice broke. 5 years ago, he already did all the damage. Then we'll hurt him back. That won't fix me. I know. Jae-sung pulled her against him, strong arms wrapping around her like a shield against the world. But it might feel good anyway. Elena laughed. It came out more like a sob. She clung to him, this dangerous man who'd somehow become her safe place. And she cried. Really cried. She let herself break. Jae-sung held her through all of it, didn't try to fix it, didn't tell her to stop, just held her and let her shatter, his hands running soothingly through her hair, his lips pressing gentle kisses to her forehead. When she finally quieted, her tears soaking his shirt, he carried her to the bathroom, drew a bath, added her favorite lavender oil, helped her undress with such careful gentleness, it made her want to cry all over again. In you go, he said softly, supporting her as she sank into the warm water. Eleanor expected him to leave, give her privacy. But Jae-sung rolled up his sleeves, knelt beside the tub and reached for a washcloth. What are you doing? Taking care of my wife. He dipped the cloth in water, began gently washing the blood from her skin. Is that okay? Eleanor nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. He was so careful. Washing away the blood, the glass dust, the trauma of the day. His touch was reverent, like she was something precious. When he reached her injured palm, he cleaned the cut with such gentle precision that she barely felt it. This needs stitches, he said, examining the wound. It's fine. Elena, it's just a cut. I've had worse. Jae-sung's jaw tightened. You shouldn't have had to have worse. You should never have been hurt at all. But I was. And I survived. You did. He pressed a kiss to her palm, careful of the injury. You're the strongest person I know. I don't feel strong, I feel... Elena's voice wavered. I feel like that same broken girl from 5 years ago, the one who couldn't even protect her own baby. Stop. Jae-sung's voice was firm but not harsh. That wasn't your fault. None of it was your fault. I should have fought harder, should have what? You were alone, pregnant, homeless. What could you have done differently? His hands cupped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. He's the one who failed. He's the one who abandoned you. He's the monster who left you with nothing. Not you. Never you. But the baby died because your body was under too much stress, because you weren't getting enough food or rest, because the man who was supposed to protect you both threw you away like garbage. Jae-sung's voice roughened with emotion. That's on him. Only him. Eleanor searched his face, found only fierce certainty, only love. How do you always know what to say? She whispered. I don't. I just say what's true. He kissed her forehead. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are not worthless. You are the woman who survived hell and came out stronger. The woman who built herself back up from nothing. The woman I love more than I thought it was possible to love anyone. Jae-sung, I love you. He said it like a vow. I loved you when you were stitching my wounds in a bathroom at 3 a.m. I loved you when you dismissed Lee Jin-woo like he was nothing. I loved you when you said yes to marrying me. And I love you now, covered in cuts and crying in a bathtub. There is nothing that could make me stop loving you. Elena kissed him then, slow and deep and full of everything she couldn't say. Jae-sung kissed her back like she was air, like she was life itself. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jae-sung rested his forehead against hers. Let me take care of you, he whispered. Please. You always do. Let me do it better. So she did. She let him finish washing her, let him wrap her in a towel soft as clouds, let him carry her back to bed and tuck her under the covers, let him call Dr. Ahn to properly clean and stitch her cut. Let him hold her as the doctor worked, whispering reassurances and pressing kisses to her hair. And when Dr. Ahn left, when they were alone in the dimness of their bedroom, Jae-sung climbed into bed beside her, pulled her against his chest, wrapped himself around her like he could shield her from the entire world. I won't let him hurt you again, he murmured into her hair. I swear it. I know. I'll destroy him, completely. I know that too. Eleanor tilted her head to look at him. But that's not why I love you. No? No. I love you because of moments like this. Because you hold me when I break, because you see me, really see me, and don't look away. She touched his face. I love you because you're gentle with me, even though the world made you hard. Jae-sung's eyes glistened. You made me gentle. Before you, I was just cold, angry, dead inside. You were surviving. So were you. But somehow, we found each other. He kissed her softly. And now I get to spend the rest of my life loving you. That's the greatest thing I've ever done. They fell asleep like that, wrapped in each other, safe in the knowledge that whatever came next, they'd face it together. Over the next 72 hours, Park Sang-woo and his team worked like surgical instruments, cutting through Minjay's carefully constructed life. And what they found was damning. Sang-woo presented the file in Jae-sung's office 3 days later. Elena sat beside her husband, insisting on being present. She needed to see this, needed to understand what kind of man she'd almost built a life with. Kim Minjay, age 34, Sang-woo began, pulling up documents on the large screen. Investment banker at Daeun Securities for 6 years. On paper, everything looks legitimate, but he clicked to the next screen. He's been embezzling from client accounts for 2 years. Small amounts at first, then larger. Total theft, approximately 500 million won. Elena gasped. That's about $500,000 US, Jae-sung supplied, his hand finding hers under the table. How is that possible? Elena asked. Don't they audit? His father-in-law-to-be is on the regulatory board. Yoon Chang-min has been covering for him in exchange for favorable investment advice and kickbacks. Sang-woo clicked to the next screen. But that's not all. We found 3 other women. all former girlfriends, all abandoned when they became what he called financial liabilities. Photos appeared. 3 women, all Korean, all from working-class backgrounds. All had been promised marriage, then discarded. One was abandoned when her mother got sick and needed expensive treatment, Sang-woo continued. One when she lost her job during the pandemic. The last one when she asked him to help pay for her father's funeral. Elena's hands clenched in her lap. Jae-sung's hand covered hers, thumb stroking soothingly. Each woman tried to file complaints, Sang-woo said. Harassment, emotional distress, breach of promise. All complaints disappeared. Lee Byung-chul, Minjay's father, paid them off with NDAs and threats. So he's done this before. Elena's voice was ice. I wasn't the only one. You were the only one who got pregnant, Sang-woo said gently. But yes, this is a pattern. Show me everything, Jae-sung said. I want evidence that will hold up in court. I want his firm to fire him. I want the regulatory board to investigate. I want every single person he's hurt to come forward. That's not how we usually... I don't care how we usually handle things. Jae-sung's voice was steel. Eleanor wants him to suffer legally, so we do this right. Can you do it? Sang-woo smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. When have I ever let you down? Sa-jung-nim. What happened next unfolded with surgical precision. Day 1. The boutique security footage leaked to every major news outlet in Seoul. High-definition video of Minjay assaulting Elena, throwing her into the display case, standing over her bleeding body. Within hours, it had millions of views. Day 2. An anonymous tip reached the Financial Supervisory Service. Minjay's accounts at Daehan Securities were frozen. Internal auditors swarmed his office. By afternoon, evidence of embezzlement was undeniable. By evening, he was fired. His licenses revoked. Criminal charges filed. Day 3. The 3 women came forward. Coordinated press conference. Their stories, detailed, heartbreaking, enraging, photos of Minjay with each of them. Text messages where he'd called them worthless, useless, burdens. The public outrage was volcanic. Day 4. Assemblyman Yoon Chang-min held an emergency press conference, announced his daughter was breaking her engagement to Minjay, condemned violence against women, promised a full investigation into any regulatory irregularities, threw Minjay completely under the bus to save his re-election campaign. Day 5. Lee Byung-chul issued a statement disowning his son, claimed he'd been unaware of Minjay's actions, promised full cooperation with investigators. Privately, he refused to post bail or provide legal representation. Minjay was alone. Day 6. Minjay's landlord served an eviction notice. His luxury apartment lease was tied to his employment at Daehan Securities. Terminated employment meant terminated lease. His car was repossessed, his credit cards cancelled, his bank accounts drained by restitution orders and legal fees. Through it all, Eleanor watched the news with a strange detachment. This man who'd once meant everything to her was being systematically destroyed, and she felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication, just a hollow emptiness where he used to live in her head. You okay? Jae-sung asked one evening, finding her staring at yet another news report. I thought I'd feel different, Elena admitted. Watching him lose everything. I thought I'd feel... I don't know. Something. But you don't. No, it's just empty. She looked at him. Is that wrong? No. Jae-sung pulled her into his arms. It means you've moved on. He doesn't matter anymore. He took so much from me. And you built something better without him. Jae-sung kissed her temple. You're free, Elena. Really free. She wanted to believe him. She really did. On day 7, Minjay was scheduled to be arrested. Embezzlement, fraud, assault. Bail would be set at 200 million won, an amount he could no longer afford. The man who'd lived in luxury, who'd thrown Elena away for not being financially worthy, would sit in a jail cell with nothing. But Minjay had other plans. He'd spent the past week watching his life crumble. Watching Elena, his Elena, the one he'd thrown away, living in luxury with Seoul's most dangerous man. It wasn't fair. It wasn't right. She was supposed to be nothing. She was supposed to have stayed nothing. If he was going down, he'd take her with him. The plan was simple. Desperate but simple. He'd kidnap Eleanor, force Jae-sung to drop the charges, return his money, restore his reputation. Or he'd kill her. He had nothing left to lose. What Minjay didn't understand was that you don't threaten a king's queen and expect to survive. It happened on a Thursday morning. Eleanor had insisted on going to a charity meeting at a hotel in Gangnam. Jae-sung had wanted her to stay home, to stay safe, but Eleanor refused to let Minjay's existence keep her trapped. "I have 3 security guards," she'd reminded him. "I'll be fine." "I don't like it." "I know, but I can't live in fear." Eleanor had kissed him. "I'll be careful, I promise." She'd been careful. Her guards had been careful. But Minjay had been desperate. He'd waited in the parking garage, had a stolen van, chloroform, a gun he'd bought illegally. And when Elena emerged from the meeting, flanked by her security team, he'd acted. The gunshot echoed through the concrete space. 1 guard went down. The other 2 moved to shield Elena, but Minjay was faster, high on adrenaline and rage and the certainty that he had nothing left to lose. He grabbed Elena from behind, gun to her head. "Move and she dies." The guards froze. Elena's heart hammered against her ribs. "Minjay," she said, voice surprisingly steady. "Don't do this." "Shut up." His arm tightened around her throat. "You ruined my life. You and that gangster you married. You ruined your own life. Because of you." He was shaking, the gun wavering. "I had everything. I was going to marry an assemblyman's daughter. I had money, respect, a future. And then you showed up and took it all away. I didn't do anything. You did this to yourself." "Liar!" He dragged her toward the van. The guards followed at a distance, guns drawn but unable to shoot without risking Elena. "Call him. Call your husband and tell him if he doesn't drop everything, I'll kill you." Elena's mind raced. She could feel Minjay's panic in the trembling of his hands, the raggedness of his breathing. He was unstable, dangerous. She needed to buy time. "Okay," she said calmly. "Okay, I'll call him. Just don't hurt anyone else." Minjay shoved her into the van, gun still trained on her. "Do it. Now." Eleanor pulled out her phone with shaking hands, hit Jae-sung's number. He answered on the first ring. "Darling, are you—" "Jae-sung." Her voice was remarkably calm. "Minjay has me. He has a gun. We're in a van in the hotel parking garage." The silence on the other end was terrifying. Then, in a voice colder than death, "Put him on." Eleanor held out the phone. Minjay snatched it. "Kim Jae-sung," he said, trying to sound confident and failing. "You're going to do exactly what I say or your wife dies. If you harm 1 hair on her head," Jae-sung's voice was utterly calm, "I will make you beg for death. I will take days killing you. Weeks. I will make an art form of your suffering. I'm not afraid of you. You should be." There was a pause. "You have approximately 3 minutes before 50 of my men surround that parking garage. You have 2 options. Let my wife go now, and I'll make your death quick. Or wait, and I'll show you what real pain looks like." "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Another pause. "Check your phone. I'm sending you something." Minjay's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and went white. It was a photo of this parking garage, taken from outside, time-stamped 30 seconds ago, showing at least a dozen black SUVs pulling up to the entrances. "Impossible," Minjay whispered. "How did you—" "I always know where my wife is," Jae-sung said. "She has a tracker. I knew the moment something went wrong. My men were already moving before you made that first demand." Elena could hear the sounds now. Car doors, footsteps, the click of guns being cocked. "Let her go," Jae-sung said. "Last chance." "No!" Minjay's voice cracked. "No, you don't get to win! She was mine first. She was—" The van door was ripped open. Park Sang-woo stood there, gun pointed directly at Minjay's head. Drop it! Minjay's gun swung wildly between Sang-woo and Eleanor. Stay back! I'll shoot her, I swear I'll… Eleanor moved. The self-defense training Jae-sung had insisted on kicked in. She grabbed Minjay's wrist, twisted it sharply. The gun went off, bullet embedding in the van's ceiling. Eleanor drove her elbow back into his ribs, then down into his instep. Minjay screamed, releasing her. Eleanor dove out of the van. Immediately, arms wrapped around her, Jae-sung. He'd arrived with his men, had been waiting for an opening. "I've got you," he murmured into her hair. "You're safe. You're safe." Behind them, Sang-woo had Minjay on the ground, hands cuffed behind his back. The would-be kidnapper was crying, bleeding from where he'd hit his head in the struggle. "You ruined everything," Minjay sobbed. "Everything." Jae-sung turned, Eleanor still in his arms. His eyes on Minjay held such cold fury that the temperature seemed to drop. "No," Jae-sung said quietly. "You ruined everything. 5 years ago when you abandoned a pregnant woman. Today when you thought you could threaten my wife." He paused. "The difference is, when you ruin things, people suffer. When I ruin things, only the guilty pay." He nodded to Sang-woo. "Take him. Make sure the police get every single charge. Kidnapping, attempted murder, illegal possession of a firearm. Add it to the embezzlement and assault. I want him to spend the next 20 years in prison thinking about what he did. Yes, Sajangnim." As Minjay was dragged away, still screaming and crying, Jae-sung cupped Elena's face. "Are you hurt?" "No, I'm okay." But she was shaking now, the adrenaline fading. "You're not okay, you just had a gun to your head." "But I got away. Because of what you taught me." Eleanor managed a weak smile. "See? I was paying attention." Jae-sung pulled her against him, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. "I almost lost you. If he'd pulled that trigger, if you hadn't moved when you did. But I did. And I'm here. I'm safe." "You shouldn't have had to save yourself. I should have been there." "You were. You sent your men. You tracked me." Eleanor pulled back to look at him. "You saved me. Again." Jae-sung's eyes were bright with unshed tears. This dangerous man, this underground king, was crying because he'd almost lost her. "I love you," he said hoarsely. "God, Elena, I love you so much." "I love you too." She kissed him, soft and sweet and alive. "Can we go home now?" "Anything you want." He carried her to his car, wouldn't let her walk, needed to hold her, and drove her home himself. The whole way, his hand never left hers. That night, Jae-sung couldn't sleep. Eleanor had finally dozed off around midnight, exhausted from the day's trauma. But Jae-sung lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying the afternoon over and over. The phone call. Her calm voice saying, "Minjay has me. He has a gun." The 3 minutes it had taken his men to surround the parking garage. 3 minutes that felt like hours. The moment he'd arrived to see Minjay pointing a gun at his wife's head. The absolute terror when that gun had gone off, even though the bullet had hit the ceiling. The fury when he'd wanted nothing more than to kill Minjay right there. But knowing Elena wouldn't want that. He'd come so close to losing her. "Can't sleep?" Elena's voice was soft in the darkness. "Did I wake you?" "No. I felt you leave." She rolled to face him, hand finding his chest. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. Go back to sleep." Jae-sung. She propped herself up on one elbow. "Talk to me." He was quiet for a long moment, then. "I should have protected you better." "You did protect me. Not well enough. He got to you. Put a gun to your head. Almost," his voice broke, "I almost lost you today." Eleanor's hand cupped his face. "But you didn't. I'm right here." "What if you weren't? What if he'd pulled that trigger? What if—" "Stop." She kissed him gently. "You can't live in what-ifs." "I know, but—" Jae-sung sat up, running hands through his hair. "When I got that call, when I heard your voice saying he had a gun, Elena, I've faced down gangs, corrupt politicians, assassins. Nothing has ever scared me the way that moment did. I was scared too. But you stayed calm. You handled it. You saved yourself. He looked at her with something like awe. "You're so strong." "I learned from the best." Eleanor took his hands. "You taught me to fight. You gave me the tools to protect myself. That's what saved me today. It shouldn't have come to that. Maybe not. But it did. And I survived. We both did." She squeezed his hands. "And Minjay is going to prison for a very long time. Not long enough. Maybe not. But it's enough for me." Eleanor pulled him back down, curled into his side. "I don't want to give him any more of my time, any more of my thoughts. He's done taking from me." Jae-sung wrapped his arms around her. "You're sure you're okay?" "I'm better than okay, because I have you." They lay in comfortable silence until Eleanor spoke again. "I want to do something." "Like what?" "Start a foundation. For women like me. Women who've been financially abused, abandoned, hurt." Her voice grew stronger. "Legal aid, counselling, job training, emergency housing. Everything I wish I'd had 5 years ago." Jae-sung pulled back to look at her. "You want to turn your pain into purpose?" "Yes." "Is that crazy?" "No. It's perfect." He kissed her forehead. "You're perfect. And I'll help you build whatever you want. Promise?" "I'd build you 1,000 foundations if it made you happy." Eleanor smiled. "One is enough. For now." They fell asleep wrapped in each other, already planning the future, already building something good from the ashes of trauma. The Phoenix Rising Foundation opened its doors in Gangnam 6 months after Minjay's attempted kidnapping. Not hidden in some back alley, right there on the main street. Impossible to miss. Impossible to ignore. The press conference was packed. Media, supporters, curious onlookers, but most importantly, women. Women who'd seen the news about Elena's kidnapping. Women who'd survived their own versions of Kim Minjay. Women who needed to know they weren't alone. Elena stood at the podium in a simple navy dress. Jae-sung stood off to the side, arms crossed, watching her with undisguised pride. "Thank you all for coming," Elena began. 5 years ago, I had nothing. No money, no home, no hope. I was 4 months pregnant when the man I loved threw me away like garbage." The room was absolutely silent. "I lost my baby. I lost everything. And for a long time, I wanted to die." Eleanor's voice didn't shake. "But I survived. And I learned something. I wasn't alone. Thousands of women go through this every day. Financial abuse, abandonment, being told they're worthless because they can't contribute economically." She outlined the foundation's services: legal representation, financial counselling, job training, emergency housing, therapy, support groups. "Your worst moment doesn't define you," Elena said. "Your past doesn't write your future. I am living proof." She paused, looking directly at the women in the audience. "And if I can rise from the ashes, so can you." The applause was thunderous. After the conference, a woman approached, late 30s, tired eyes, worn clothes. "I was homeless last year," the woman said quietly. "My boyfriend took all my savings. I've been sleeping in jjimjilbangs. Can you really help?" Elena took her hands. "Yes. What's your name?" "Song Mira." "Song Mira, you're not alone anymore." Elena smiled. "I promise." Later, in the car going home, Jae-sung reached over and took Eleanor's hand. "You were amazing today." "You think so?" "I know so. You're going to change so many lives." Eleanor leaned her head on his shoulder. "We're going to change them. Together." "Together," Jae-sung agreed, bringing her hand to his lips. "Always together." As they drove through Seoul, this city that had nearly destroyed her, that had given her back her life, Eleanor felt something she hadn't felt in years. Complete. Not because Minjay had suffered, not because justice had been served, but because she'd taken her pain and transformed it into purpose. She'd taken her loss and created hope. She'd been buried, and she'd bloomed anyway. And in the end, that was the best revenge of all. Thank you for watching, everyone. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to Afro Soul Stories TV for more incredible tales of love, resilience, and redemption. Drop a comment below telling us what you thought. Your words mean the world to us. And remember, your worst chapter doesn't define you. You are the author of your own story. Now go write something beautiful.